Thank you so much, and good morning, everybody. Before I get into today's subject, where we are going to talk about children with special needs and what to do, and help with the sensitization work and everything, let me actually talk a little bit about mental health in general. Let me ask a question: how many of you have do something for your mental health? One, something for your mental health. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So what do you do?
I do yoga.
Meditation.
Yoga
Yoga
and meditation.
and meditation.
Dance.
Yoga and meditation. Anybody other than yoga and meditation?
Dance.
Somebody does dance, somebody does music.
Shopping.
I'm sorry? Meditation, okay.
Shopping.
Great. Okay. And that's usually, what you are saying is usually the answer I get. Okay. I do yoga, I do meditation, I do music, I do dance, I do reading. Sometimes people would say I go for vacations and travel, or I do shopping, or, I eat.
Yeah, I eat.
Okay. So, let me run a thought experiment. Okay. If you can bear with me. What if I tell you, that 16 to 18 hours a day, not a week or a month, 16 to 18 hours a day, all that you all are doing is mental wellness. What if I was to say that? The food that you eat, the places that you go to, the people that you meet, the sleep that you get, a chunk of the job that you do, sometimes it's frustrating and, really disrupting, but, otherwise, the job that you go to, and everything else in your life. So, I have this assertion that 16 to 18 hours a day, every individual is working on their mental health. Can anybody disagree with that? Do we all agree that's the case? Okay. But why do people keep saying who will work on their mental health? It's tabooed. There is a stigma. If 16 to 18 hours a day you are working on your mental health, that means it is probably the most time consuming activity in your life. Nothing can beat that.
Not in conscious. You're not conscious.
Not in a conscious way. Not in a conscious way. We'll talk about that. Yes, please.
So basically, how you revert to situations and how you keep your mental balance, where that is the...
But that's what you are doing all day, right? That's what you are doing all day. That's the choice you are making all day.
Saying 18 hours, so definitely we are
Right.
getting ourselves off.
Absolutely. So, what is happening is, we spend 16 to 18 hours a day working on our mental health. However, we lack the vocabulary, okay, bhasha, the tools, auzar, and the framework, dhacha. We lack the vocabulary, the tools, and the framework to, number one, call it mental health, and number two, just as important, to get value from it. What we as an organization are trying to do, incorporate in all parts of society, is to help people get the vocabulary, the tools, and the framework. Just by, getting aware of this thought, that 16 to 18 hours a day, you are doing mental health for yourself. I can assure you, when you walk out of this room after this session, you will be thinking about a few of your actions every day and, relating them to your mental health. And the fact that now you have that vocabulary, you will have better control of yourself. And then, of course, we provide people with tools, we have a platform called as Solh Wellness, SOLH. We have a platform both on Android as well as iOS, where we empower people with those tools and solutions for them to be able to get help. And we also provide them with self-help tools. We provide them with community support tools like journaling, support groups, and everything. And then we provide them with interventions. So, clinical interventions like a psychiatrist, a psychotherapist, or a psychologist. Non-clinical intervention like allied therapies, yoga, meditation, art, music, dance, naturopathy, spiritual therapies, religious therapies, Reiki and healing and whatnot. Okay. Anyway, why is it important? Well, it's important because the challenge that we face in working with special needs kids is firstly starting with the stigma that surrounds mental health. If this stigma goes away, just if this stigma goes away, a lot of the other things may go away as well. Let's take examples. If a kid has asthma, will you make him a runner?
No.
Will other students have a problem with it?
They might not have a problem with it, but...
Will they come and complain, or will a parent come and complain, you make my child run while you ask that child to sit on the side? No. What if a kid has, in extreme cases, if a kid has one eye or one leg or one arm or whatever, is disabled in some other way, will a parent come and complain? No? But a parent will come and complain if there is a kid with special needs who you are providing any special capabilities to. Right? So what we are saying is physical illness is acceptable. Mental illness is not acceptable. Right? So in a lot of ways, sorry.
There is a slight difference what you are saying, because in case of that, what you are saying, that children with special needs, they have some behavioral issues as well. So their behavior can affect the students around. But in the case of that disability, they are not causing any harm to people around.
I get that. We'll talk about that. Absolutely good point. We'll talk about that. I'm just trying to create this environment of, so there are three ways that people talk about, needs for children with special abilities. There are three schools of thought. One school of thought sits on the right that says, if you are child with special ability, there need to be a special school for you. Don't intervene. Okay? Then there is something on the left that says, if you are a child with special abilities, nobody should care. You should be part of the same class, you should be part of the same system, and you should do everything as required by everybody else. And then there is a thought in the middle which says inclusivity. Okay, and that's how we are calling inclusivity, right? Right and left could be inclusivity depending on how you structure and depending on how you look at it. So when we ask an asthma kid not to run, then inclusivity is on this side, right? So anyway, and we call that inclusivity. What I think I want everybody here to consider, okay, is for a moment, okay, let us not be the policy makers or the policy evaluators. Let us simply be the policy doers. That's what we all are, right? As teachers. By the way, I don't envy your jobs at all. Especially with COVID, my respect for teaching profession, or my belief that I should never have become a teacher, which I am not a teacher, is that much strengthened. I mean, it's amazing what teachers have done, specifically in the times of COVID. Now, what is going to happen, and what we are already starting to see as we get out of COVID, is lives have changed. Completely altered. There is no question of, whether we are in a lockdown or an isolation. There is no question of whether we are living in a world where there is remote working or not. You get everything back to normal, and lives have changed. Okay, lives have changed. Firstly, in regards to the fact that everybody in this world, I'm not talking about a child with special needs or not with special needs and all, everybody has an increased amount of stress in their life. Everybody has increased amount of reasons to worry, reasons to feel pressured about. Teachers, of course, you guys have probably been the most affected community. But everybody has stronger reasons to worry. Everybody has stronger reasons, stronger set of stress, stronger set of problems in their life. Hence, there is an added need for us all to be cognizant of mental health. Specifically with you, you become the forebearers, the flag bearers of what you hand out to the society, if I could say that. Because you are the first point of contact after a child's parents in how they will grow up. So your responsibility in that sense is incredibly important. So before I talk about children with special needs, I think it is extremely important for each one of you to worry about your mental wellness. Each one of you. Okay. So the first aspect, the first part of sensitization that I want to talk to you all about as a teacher is your mental wellness. Extremely important. You all need to care and you all need to do more about it. You all need to be empowered with the vocabulary, the tools and the framework for you to be better with your mental health. Okay? And that's my core number one mission, in fact. Once we go with that, okay, because if you are mentally well, if you are, more stable in your thinking, in your life, in, everything around you, you will perhaps be able to reflect that more to the kids that you work with. Right? And you work with the more impressionable ones. The ones when they are in class 6 or when they grow from there, they are less impressionable, right? They will listen to you, they will look at you, but you won't be as impressionable to them as you would be in your lives as teachers from nursery grade to class 5th. Extremely, extremely important in how you kind of conduct yourself, how you reflect on those kids, what sort of controls, what sort of systems and structures do they see coming out of you. Hence, your mental health. Okay? And we can talk a little bit more about that towards the end of the session. I will tell you a little bit about soul wellness at that point of time. But let's get to children with special needs. Let me ask, what sorts of problems do you usually face? Anybody wants to start? Sorry? What sort of problems do you usually face while working with children with special needs? Not just their problems, but problems in the overall class as well. Yes, please.
So there is one child in my class who doesn't even respond, like he keeps sitting. And I think whenever you just tell him at least you take out the notebook, try to write something, hold a pencil, do something at least instead of sitting and sleeping. What habit he has developed, he sleeps. He tries to sleep in the class instead of sitting attentive and listening. So I always draw his attention towards me when I'm teaching.
Sure.
So he doesn't like it.
Sure.
So he starts making faces and even he starts crying at times.
Sure.
So that is somewhere the whole class gets disturbed because he starts crying and the continuation of the topic which I'm taking gets disturbed in between. Then I need to make him cool and then make him sit and comfortable and then I need to start. So definitely it disturbs the continuity of your teaching. So it is one of the reasons, and that other children get engaged into, ma'am, this happened because of this and that thing.
Sure. I understand. You had a point?
No, I was just saying that what Disha said.
Okay. Anybody else?
We do have problems. So we are from the dance department. So when you are coming downstairs, you have discipline issues sometimes. What happens is it's like a 35-minute period, right? And like she said, if you take so much time out for one kid, what about the other 39?
Yep.
The challenge is to maintain the decorum of the class.
Yep.
Managing the class itself.
Usually, like you said, there are only one or two children in the class.
Attention
But of course, it's not the problem of be communicating with them. It's about also that 39 other students in the class.
Sure. So, anybody else has anything else? Yes, please.
In my class, there are about 3 special students. One of the students has this habit of spitting on other students, and specifically in the plates.
Okay.
The child gets disturbed when anyone even looks at him like this. He gets very disturbed. He's very sensitive towards certain words and all. Secondly, he only understands his mother tongue. And he does not understand English, he does not understand Hindi. He gets restless after the first period. He starts, rushing towards students and hitting them and, somehow harming them.
Sure. Anybody else?
Apart from that,
Sorry, go ahead please. I'm sorry.
There's one more student in my class who tries a lot. For very small things, very, very small things. Although he is hitting others, but when the other one will retaliate, he starts crying.
Sure.
Every day it is happening.
Sure. Yes, please.
So there is a child in my class, again, who is a child with special needs, and what we have to do is, in order to channelize his energy, we have to send him for basketball every morning, and then when he comes back, and somehow he shows little tantrums, and then when we do not pay attention to him, he will just start banging on the table. He's not going to harm anyone around, but rather he'll start banging and he'll try to seek the attention
Sure.
of the students as well as the teachers around, and sometimes he uses bad language also when his demands are not fulfilled.
Sure. Anybody else wants to add anything? Anything different? Okay. So yeah, and all of these are, issues that we all see in children with special needs. Okay. In our view, what you need to do is, I'll walk through certain steps. The first step that you guys need to do is to have a screening and assessment system. Okay? And I am not talking about screening and assessment for children with special needs. I am talking about a screening and assessment system for everyone. Let me come up with an assumption, and let me not even call it an assumption. Let me state a fact. Every child in today's world, every individual in today's world has special needs. Every individual has special needs. And you as teacher need to start to respond to them. That is what makes your life so difficult, and that is what makes your work so demanding, so challenging, and probably should be so respectful. Everybody has unique, individual, special needs that you need to identify and that you need to work with. Number one. Okay. So screening and assessment becomes an extremely, extremely important portion of what you guys need to do as an organization. It's not something that an individual teacher can run for her own class. It has to be built within the school philosophy, the school methodology. I mean, this session and probably the work that the school has done previous to this, looking at sensitization, looking at children with special needs and all, essentially means the school is willing to take the first few steps. And then, of course, as an organization, it needs to be carried further. But extremely important, a screening and assessment system for everybody. From that screening and assessment system, okay, some of your existing ones or some of your non-existing ones would change positions. Okay, sometimes it's a little difficult to identify whether the kid suffers from a social cognitive behavior or ADHD or something which is a problem, or whether the kid simply yeah, I mean, I was telling the teachers lot previous to you, I was one of the other ones. I mean, having fun all the time. In fact, my principal used to say, Kapil Gupta, I used to be one of the top 3 students in my class. So my principal used to say, Kapil Gupta, agar tu padhai mein अच्छा ना होता ना, तेरे को तो मैं आज ही TC दे देती. But then, and that actually emboldened me further, because I know she can't do much. She's not going to spoil her school results with me. Anyway, so this screening and assessment will help you identify. That's number 1. Number 2 for me is one of the keys to solving this problem. And that is, every class needs to develop a system where all the teachers of that class, at least once in a month, all teachers of that class sit together and develop a framework specifically for that class. So all teachers of class 1 sit together. I'm not saying sit by section. That will become too much of work. Okay? But all teachers of class 1 sit together, identify the kids with special needs, and figure out how you will all create a consistent framework around it. So, we as teachers have this system of pair the child with special needs with somebody that will be able to help them. Okay, wouldn't it be wonderful if we do that as a team? And we create that consistency across everything? Wouldn't it be wonderful if we all as a structure, as a team, put together the steps that would probably help generate more familiarity, more consistency and better mechanisms? So extremely important that needs to be done is teachers in a particular class, all of them need to sit together as a team. I recommend at least once in a month. It could be 30 minutes, it could be an hour. Initially you will probably need an hour. Okay, and then after 1 or 2 sessions it will gradually kind of reduce because you will have an existing structure. But very important to develop the system where you as a teacher are not working with one student in your approach and another one in their approach, where you have a consistent approach that works for that child. It should not be teacher dependent. It's fine for it to be student dependent, but definitely not teacher dependent. And a lot of times our challenges erupt because it is student dependent. Also what happens is when it is when it is teacher dependent, everybody has a reason to complain. Because then the question is this teacher doing the right thing? If it is not teacher dependent, if it is created as part of a framework by the entire set of teachers, then I don't think the parents would be able to complain as much. Because usually the parents' complaint is more against the teacher versus against the entire school and everybody. Right? Teachers usually come up and say, this teacher did this, or this teacher dealt with this particular situation this way. And when they are seeing these problems, I understand you are not. I mean, if I ask you, who do you get more problems from, you'll probably have a challenge answering. Is it kids with special needs whose parents come up with more problem, or is it the normal ones that come up with more complaints because you're doing something with children with special needs? So I understand that challenge. And extremely important that you create that framework as an organization, as a structure, as a group versus individually a teacher doing something. Also, just for the sake of completion of this thought, let me say, as an individual, you may not always be in the best position. As a group, you are taking inputs from everyone and you are adding value to everyone, and then you are coming up with the answer. It is specifically true, it may not be as true in kids with, LD, but it is definitely true in kids with ADHD or autism. Because they have differentiated behaviors. It's not like a kid with ADHD will never sit quietly. It's not like that. Right? They may sit quietly in one of the 5 classes and not in the other 4. Okay, quietly could be how quietly could be still debatable, but they don't have consistent behaviors. So if you develop that sort of consistent methodology as a group, then you may be able to come up with better mechanisms. Next, extremely important, trust the policy. Okay. Interestingly, and I keep saying, not just to teachers and not just when I'm talking mental health, but even as a overall social activist, I keep saying, while everybody thinks we are a country with more lawlessness than a lot of other countries, we have as good of laws as anybody else in the world will. Okay, so instead of us questioning, right, and all of us will have our own thoughts, our own beliefs in what is right, what is wrong. Instead of us questioning, just say, I am a doer, I need to follow the policy. Period. No second thoughts about it. Need to follow the policy. And what does the policy say? Number 1, inclusivity. Okay? Inclusivity in itself means kids with special needs should not be treated differently, but kids with special needs need to be treated differently. Right? So they should become the part of the overall mainstream, but then you should provide special capabilities to them as and when the need arises. So, read the policy. Second, read what the policy says in terms of the support that you need to provide. And I think you guys have a structure of shadows, right? You have a structure of scribes and readers as a school, right? You don't?
I don't think so.
Yes,
We do.
We do.
But are their teachers aware about it?
but during scribes and the readers are provided during examinations.
But shadows are provided for...
Shadows are provided, but we are not. So it's not for everyone. You understand? So I think all the teachers need to be told what is Down syndrome, the difference between special needs as well. Don't put them. First of all, special needs is not special needs just because it's called ADHD or autism or Down syndrome.
Absolutely.
Many people don't know the difference.
Absolutely.
So everyone just puts them in the autistic line. So,
Yep. So, do people here understand the difference? ADHD, learning disability, autism. Everybody understands Down syndrome. Everybody.
How to deal with physical aggression in the class?
We'll get to that.
Deal with such parents.
Right.
Even that.
We'll
Parents of those children who are
Ab-
ready to accept certain things.
absolutely.
Like in Arpita
And other parents,
we had an
who are
interaction
not
with the
ready to
parents for good
accept
45 minutes.
their child being bullied by the other.
I understand. We'll talk about that. And that's a huge problem. Especially in smaller classes, it becomes a bigger problem.
So when you're talking inclusive, we don't have a problem in inclusive teaching or methodology. The problem arises when there is not acceptance from both the sides.
Yes.
The child with special needs, parents don't accept that the child is a problem, and the other parents whose child is being bullied by this child, they are not ready to accept that he should be a part of the
Yep.
class.
I
Why should their child be hit or harmed
Yep.
because of somebody else?
I completely hear you.
There are practical difficulties and that.
I completely hear you. However,
We are facing in the class.
yep. However, there is one challenge that I hear in your statements. We'll talk about that. Just 1 second.
I have a child in my class who initially used to hit me really hard because they have an ADHD. I used to eat, and every day I used to get 2-3 parents call every day, and they were like really frustrated and angry, and they were like, I'm going to the management, you have to change the class of that particular boy. Now he has a shadow teacher, so still we are able
Control.
to manage, but
I get it. I hear you. I hear you. I fully understand where you are coming from. See, there is one consistent problem that I hear from you guys. Okay? And I have a challenge in that problem. The parents complain.
because we are parent-centric.
The parents complain.
Society as a whole should be educated. We know, we are aware, we are ready.
Absolutely.
But the society as a whole should
Absolutely.
be educated
Ma'am,
about
you had a point?
I was saying that different children have different level of disability. So even dealing in a consistent, in a uniform manner would not be possible. So definitely we need to change our methodology and even how to treat and deal with them if the whole process changes, because there are many factors which are considered while dealing with a child and the parent.
Yep.
The parent is involved or not, the parent is willing to accept
Yep.
or not, the child is making effort or not, is there any perseverance from the child's side? So all these factors are also a part.
So as a teacher, we have a lot of limitations.
Absolutely. And ma'am, let me say, I am, at least today, I am not here as a transformational agent. For today, I can only be an incremental agent. So I can provide, for today, okay, we can talk about a more transformational approach, and that will require a lot of involvement from, other stakeholders as well. For today, we'll talk about incremental aspects of what we can do. I hear your frustration, your challenges, and your issues, and they are extremely, which is why I said
We are not frustrated. We also need some kind of help. in
absolutely,
dealing with such things.
absolutely, ma'am.
It's just that what we are facing that day.
Absolutely. So what I was saying was, one consistent aspect that I keep hearing from teachers is the parents complaint. Okay, and trust me, I'm not hearing that because you are a parent-centric school.
No, but
I am hearing that from everyone. Okay, and there are different ways to look at this. One approach to this is, well, the parent is complaining because the kid would have said something. I understand there are pokey and nosy parents who, get everything out of the kid. My wife is one of them.
Which is 99% of the time.
My wife is one of them. So I hear you. I keep telling her, why do you even want to know what she did yesterday? I mean, unless, and my kind of relationship with my daughters is very simple. If you have a problem, you will come and ask for support. If you don't come and ask for support, you ain't getting anything. Anyway, but most parents are not like that, and I hear that. And there is definitely a transformational work that is required to sensitize the parents as much as there is a need to sensitize the teachers. Because if the parents and the teachers combine together in forming a system, then I think molding the students will be that much easier. I'm not talking about molding children with special needs. I'm talking about molding everyone else around as well. Okay? So let me get to the framework that I was talking about. So the first part was screenings and assessment. Okay, identification, screening, assessment for everybody, not just for children with special needs, for everybody. Second part, teachers need to formulate system wherein they work as a team, wherein they don't really look at a child with special needs individually for themselves, but overall as a class, and overall all the teachers dealing with that class need to be part of that system that gets put together for that particular student. Number 3, need to involve other students in that ability. A lot of times what has been seen is some of the kids with special abilities, they work really well with one peer, or with a very small structure that they have. Okay, I have a nephew who is autism more than ADHD actually. He cracked JEE to get into engineering. Okay, has a great friend circle now in his college, but his friend circle is the 7 people that he is friends with. Put a 9th person in that group, it will be a disaster. But with those 7 people, and his parents and I are very surprised. He is living in a hostel in Hyderabad. He is studying in BITS. And he has this friend circle where he goes out every day. He does everything. I mean, he is like a normal child. And he has never been looked upon as a normal child. He has always had autistic behavior. He has always been disruptive. When we were growing up, everybody will want to play Ludo and he will want to watch cricket match. Everybody will want to watch a movie and he will want to do something else. So, you guys know much better than I do. I have probably dealt with 5 such people, and you probably deal with more than 5 on a daily basis. So extremely important to identify students and to help pair them up. Okay, extremely important. That helps with creating the system in which you are not the only one that is responsible and looking after that child with special needs, but other people are as well. And let me say, these children, specifically the ones with ADHD, less with autism probably, specifically the ones with ADHD, they get calmer in certain situations with certain people. That's the third bit. The fourth bit that you need to do is to develop every such child with special needs, develop coping mechanisms. Okay? Coping mechanisms for them. And if you want to know what are their coping mechanisms, you need to work with their parents. Okay? From their birth, okay, to the time they started walking, to when they started coming to school. The parents have gone through this. Parents know the coping mechanisms. Parents know what to do when the child gets overly aggressive, and parents know what to do when the child does something else. What we as teachers need to do is to partner with them. Usually, I have seen parents and teachers are at odds. They don't see eye to eye in how the child is. First of all, while we will keep talking about normalizing mental health conversations, the normalized mental health conversations today are, yes, it is absolutely okay to talk about mental health. Except for me and my child, Everybody else has mental health issues. But me and my child are normal. Right, and you guys go through such aspects, so I don't need to, derail this conversation with that. We keep facing such issues on a regular basis. So, extremely important for you to partner with the parents to look at coping mechanisms for these children with special needs. And divide these children in 3 parts. Okay? One part, whose parents are appreciative and whose parents want to work with you.
Who are not in denial.
Who are not in denial. Right? Really. Who are not in denial. Work with them in whatever extent you can to develop, the right systems that can work with them. The second part is those who are in complete denial or semi-denial. Okay? And of course, they need to be dealt with, lot differently. Okay? In fact, over there, I have a very strong belief that schools need to be careful about how much parent intervention is, allowed, not even needed, allowed in the school. So, but then, that's again, we are doers, we are not policy makers. So, we can give our suggestions, but we can't really control that. And the third part is, there are always in every class, there are these loud parents of other students who will keep coming up with complaints. They need to be put in a third separate bucket and dealt with uniquely. And once again, for all these 3 categories, it will be extremely good if you as a group develop the strategy. Here is a child, here is what we will do with this child, here is a parent, here is how we will deal with that parent, and it is not, it is not unique for the teacher, it is consistent by every teacher for that particular student. I can tell you, a huge part of your challenges gets resolved if you have that consistency. Once again, parents usually have a problem with the teacher's approach to something, right or wrong?
Right.
Okay? But parents usually have a problem with a teacher's approach. It is in very rare cases that parents have a problem with every teacher's approach. You know what? If a parent has a problem with every teacher's approach,
Then the problem
let me not even say problem is with the parent, because problem even in one teacher may be with the parent. But in that case, let the parent make the choice. I mean, I don't know. I mean, while I love my customers, at some point of time I say, if you want to be stupid about it, then, I can't do much with you. Right? And I understand the sensitivity and everything around this, specifically this kind of school where you are very parent positive or very parent involved. But, if you are together as a team, and I'm not saying gang up on parents, don't look at it that way. I'm saying develop a consistent approach. It will really benefit the child more. It will really benefit because it will create that consistency, because it will have inputs from all of you around their developmental needs. And if you do that together, then you wouldn't individually need to struggle all the time. So it's actually a win-win for everybody. For the parent, for the teacher, for the school, for the student. It's a win-win for everybody. Okay? So, screening and assessment, identification, screening and assessment. Okay? Working together and creating a framework as, teachers of a certain class for the specific student involved. And then, of course, you will probably, once you develop this, you will probably pass it on to the teachers of the next class as the student graduates. That will probably be part of the transition that you do. When you fill up the report card, you also fill up, a special note to the next teacher about that particular child. Anyway, that then work with and develop buddies for such kids. Okay, so pair them up. Okay, pair is not necessarily 2, pair could even be 3, 4, 5. But have them, work with them in developing that system. Okay. Another extremely important part, okay, is work with the parents in the need for shadows and scribes and readers. There are CBSE defined policies for it. Okay. CBSE defined policies for it. You are a CBSE school, so just look at the policy and follow the policy to the T. I'm sure you give scribes and readers for examinations and all.
Yeah, for those who need it.
For those who need it, okay. And of course, for those who need it and who come up with a certificate saying, here is a, by an expert saying I need it. Right? But follow that policy. Provide them with scribes, provide them with readers, provide them with more time and everything. But if you have developed a consistent methodology as a team, then all of that will flow very naturally for the kid. Other thing that we talked about was coping mechanisms. Okay, and I mean, I can't stress more on coping mechanisms. It is extremely, extremely important. Some of these kids, you will see, they become like, a bad word, but they become like this trained puppy in front of their parents. Some of them become like this trained puppy in front of their parents. And let me tell you, it is simply that the parents have created a coping mechanism and the kid is working just completely with that coping mechanism. The parent knows what to do. The parent knows I click here and the kid does this, I click there, the kid does this, and I stand like this and I say sit and he or she is going to sit. Extremely, extremely important. Also, especially in, lower classes, okay, extremely important to develop a rewards behavior. Okay, so far when we were children, okay, I'm probably older than a lot of you here, but when we were children, there used to be a punishment culture, a punishment behavior. I'm saying instead of a punishment culture, develop a rewards culture. Okay, there is nothing wrong, right and wrong in it. We as a society have moved to the level where there is this, culture, this rewards culture that is needed. People need to be appreciated. They need to be patted on the back, and it's not just the kids. I mean, I go to these social media workshops. Right now I'm doing, a sensitization program. But if I was doing a mental wellness workshop, okay, I will have some rewards here with me. Some stress balls, some chocolates, some minor other things. And once I put those, everybody starts to talk. And I'm not talking about big, I'm talking about a 10 rupee stress ball. And people would start talking. Create a rewards culture. That rewards culture will also be part of the coping mechanisms that you will have. But create a rewards culture specifically for children with special needs. If it goes out of hand, work with the school to approve a budget. I'm sure they will be more than happy to do that. If you are able to get better control, they'll be more than happy to do that. But by all means, have a rewards culture. Okay? Appropriately built. I mean, of course, there are guidelines and ways to do it, but have a rewards culture. Especially for children with special needs, do not have a punishment culture. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. They are built, their brain is wired to repulse.
Sometimes reward becomes a problem. The children seek first, you gave me chocolate for this, now first you give me chocolate.
Reward becomes a bribe.
No. I get. That's why I'm saying. You can't go stupid about it. I mean, you can't I mean, they are not dogs with treats. Don't make them dogs with treats. Okay? Don't make it a consistent reward. That's not what I'm saying. Make it, every once in a while you do something special. And I'm not saying give them a chocolate. The reward could be something else. Okay? In every unique case, you may have to develop something unique. But have a rewards culture. And that rewards program, by the way, it would be great if it is also consistent with the entire teacher set.
The reward where they're not getting anything. In the case in 3C, I tried different ways to control a child's संयम. So he used to say कि आपने मुझे एक दिन चॉकलेट दिया था, उसके बाद आप नहीं देते, मैं आपसे बात करूँगा, मैं आपसे आपकी बात सुनूंगा भी नहीं, मैं कोई काम भी नहीं करूँगा. So then I said, अच्छा चलो ठीक है, I'll take you out for some activity, then you will go, then you will do. He said, no, I want only chocolate.
I get it, but isn't that such an amazingly good place to be in versus him banking on the desk? Right? So
Because I think that is association, right?
absolutely, that's association. Reward is, and Trust me, reward is never, never a monetary portion, monetary value of the reward. It is never for none of us. Reward is simply, simply acknowledgement.
So he likes to play guitar. So he loves to go to guitar class. So once sir didn't give him chance to play the guitar, so he didn't let any child study in the class because I want to play the guitar. So he was making sounds, he was crying, he was howling and not letting me speak so that he should get the attention and then should be sent to guitar room and all. So I said, dear Sanyam, sir is taking the class over there, I cannot send you right now. So he said, then I will not teach it, I will not play.
So I think this kind of covers it, right? What you said, all the teachers working.
Absolutely.
That,
Absolutely.
if even that teacher knew what the problem was, so you would have definitely given him a chance.
Even though that teacher may think he is a special gifted kid for guitar because he loves to play guitar and he does a great job at it. So unlike a language teacher who thinks he is a kid with tremendous problems, that music teacher may think, why will I need to do something? He is so bright.
Exactly.
That's absolutely the reason why you need to have a structure created as an organization, as a team. And if all the teachers kind of work together on that, your students, your parents, your students with special needs, your parents, and your students who are normal students, okay, they will all be in a better position. Also, please remember, when we say normal student and children with special needs, pura ek spectrum hai. In fact, a few years back, the global definition of autism has changed. It is not called autism anymore. It is called as ASD. Everybody knows what ASD is? Autistic spectrum disorder. So they say autism is not a problem. Autism is a spectrum. If I check all of you in this room,
Everyone would have it.
a huge chunk of you will come on the spectrum. Some may be at 5% and some may be at
90.
Whatever, 90, exactly. But most of us will. In fact, when I started my first company, which was a digital marketing agency, I used to think I'm 30% crazy. When I started my mental wellness business, now I believe I'm 50, 60, 70% crazy. I mean, for me to, leave a comfortable job and do this is like, people think, why would you even bother? But anyway, we all are on the spectrum of autism. And many of us, in our times, if we think about it, had traits of ADHD. All of us, at some point of time in our life, probably had traits of ADHD or had some other social cognitive disorder. Okay? And we all come up with stories around that. Let me give you an example, and I think some of you will appreciate this. When I was in 5th class, I was a crying, sobby kind of a child. I remember when I was in 5th class, I was once asked to go to the stage and say something. I went to the stage, and of course, I froze. I couldn't speak a single word, while some of the other students from my class went on the stage and they did so fabulously well. Okay. Now, most students, when they get off of that stage, their story for life is, I am not good on the stage. I struggle on the stage. That's the story that most students, when they get out of stage like that, I have stage fright, I can't be on the stage, I shouldn't be doing this. Right? I don't know how. Okay? But I created a story for myself saying, this was a fluke. I'm so good I can be on the stage and do well. And in my life, since that day, that was my coping mechanism, you could say. From that day onwards, I have never frozen. I mean, I can talk on any forum. In fact, I have talked on reasonably big forums. There was a point of time when I was pitching for national elections of a political party, and I had to give a presentation where there were 17 members of parliament, including 5 sitting cabinet ministers. 17 members of parliament, including 5 sitting cabinet ministers, and I was standing there and talking to them. So I told myself, right, I created a coping mechanism for myself, a story saying, what? How can I have a stage fright? I'm so good. So it's just how you help create those coping mechanisms for those children and how you do that as a structure. Okay? It's, I mean, let me not, use the word miswired, but in a lot of cases, all that is required is a little bit of rewiring. All that is required is a little bit of, recognition with a lot of these skills. Now, when you get to LD, you are talking about a slightly different, zone. Over there, coping mechanism and some of the other things may not work as well. But when you are talking about ADHD and when you are talking about autism, in a lot of ways you can follow these simple steps and get incredible results. And as I said earlier, while you do all this, do absolutely remember that your own mental health is a must-have. In fact, I would say specifically for teachers from from nursery to class 5th, there should be some kind of counseling given to them. Like I was telling you, let me give you guys a story. I was recently at Physics Wala. How many of you know Physics Wala? If I was talking to 9th to 12th grade, every teacher would probably know. So Physics Wala is a company that started 3.5 years back. Actually, they started 7 years back, but 3 years back they formed a company. Okay, and they started with teaching physics. The logic was very simple. Schools do a terrible job. One part. Number two, institutes like FITGI and in terms of competitive exam preparation, schools don't have that as a focus, right? Looking at the FITGIs and the Vidya Mandir classes and the Akash education and the annals of the world, they are extremely expensive. So only a few are able to afford them. You're talking about 1.5–2 lakh rupees that they would take. Yeah, they do. So they are per year. अच्छा वो ठीक है वो उसमें फिर डिस्काउंट देते हैं सब कुछ करते हैं anyway whatever number they take shitload of money for them to teach. So this company came up with this logic. We will put YouTube videos. And we will create like excellent quality YouTube. And they did that. And they started growing. And they were everywhere. Then they formed a company. Now they teach JEE, NEET, IAS, and other competitive exams. They are the fastest grown unicorn in this country. People know what unicorn means?
Yes.
A company with $1 billion plus valuation. They were one of the fastest grown unicorn in this country. They now have a staff of 12,000 people. Okay. I had gone to them because I wanted to do mental wellness for their students. Those who are doing JEE preparation, I don't know, some of you would have seen the Kota class.
Yes, Kota factory.
Kota factory, right? So these children suffer tremendously, right? They have so much under pressure with teachers, with parents, with their peers, everybody around. But जब घर पे कोई पड़ोसी भी आता है तो सबसे पहले JEE का preparation ठीक चल रहा है. Why do you bother? Anyway, they are under so much pressure. So I went and I said, let's do something for them. And they said, we won't. And I said, why won't you do that? They said, because we have a bigger problem on our hands and we want you to help us solve that. What's the problem? Our employees. We have grown from 30 people to 12,000 people in a couple of years. Our employee base is 22 to 25-year-old normally, and they're struggling. And I talked to them and I did a workshop. After the workshop, what I realized was the challenge was more with their HR. 5 people from their HR came to me and said, we're talking about employees. Think about us. We do counseling for these 12,000 people. We do 5 counselings per day on an average. Not necessarily counseling as in full-blown counseling sessions, but we take care of their mental health. Think about us. So I'm saying, think about your mental health. It is extremely, extremely important. There should be a structure in school where you provide counselor, where you provide mechanisms for the teachers to get better at what they are doing. Not get better at reskilling. I'm not talking about reskilling them. In fact, as an organization, I have a fundamental belief. If a student wants to raise their grades by 5% in a specific subject, okay, and you say he needs to spend X number of hours to raise their grades in one subject that they want by 5%, my fundamental belief is you spend the same X number of hours working on their mental wellness, and they will end up improving their grades in every subject by 5%. Not just that, they will end up improving their performance in all areas by 5%. If you spend those X hours that he needed to improve performance in one subject, if you spend that on their mental wellness, that is how much we are struggling as a society right now. In fact, my course spiel about my company says it's a global pandemic. Mental health issues is probably the biggest global pandemic. For me, bigger than what COVID could ever be. Okay? Because COVID always had a restriction. Okay? And that restriction is something like a COVID, just by virtue of how biology is kind of created. Any virus can only impact up to 10% of a species. It can't impact 100%. It can only impact up to 10% of a species. Mental health issues can impact way more. And we wouldn't even know how it is sneaking up on us right now. On all of us. And if we guys, the mature, the intellectual, the teachers have that problem, think about that parent. One, think about that parent who has a special needs child. Two, think about a normal parent who is worried about how will his son or daughter compete in this competitive environment. Then start thinking about everybody around. Then start thinking about some of these parents have come up the hard way. They're probably not as well educated as you guys are. Right? They probably come from extremely, differentiated environments. They probably have, and I'm sure some of you might have that as well, but they probably have their own family situations. They probably have so much other things to deal with. So while I said earlier that there should be a question of how much parents should be allowed to participate in school, and I still maintain that, I don't put the parents at blame for all this. I think it's the social construct of how we are created as a society right now. And I'm saying we guys, because we are the flag bearers, because we are the front runners of this, we need to take the first active role in trying to create a more sensitized, in trying to create a more equal, in trying to create an environment where we all can flourish better. Again, it will happen incrementally. There is no magic bullet to this. Okay? There is no tomorrow when people will stop having ADHD or autism or learning disability for that matter. Okay? In fact, there is an extremely strong possibility that at least for the next some time it will keep increasing. Okay? The 4 C's that I talked about, climate, contagion, conflict, conformity, they are all going to increase at least for at least in the short or the medium term. Okay? There may be some fundamental transformation that happens. We may get to the concept of cosmetic babies, but let me not go. But yeah, so for the next some time, for the foreseeable future, these will keep on increasing. All that we need to do as the flag bearers of this next generation and the next to next generation that will come is to create an environment. Yes, please.
But getting some better results because the number of special students is increasing day by day because of the inclusive education. I think it would be better that if an expert person is dealing once in fortnight or in a month,
absolutely,
and then that should be taken care of. I think experts can do better than what we are doing.
Absolutely.
Because we are just getting small bits from different sources.
Absolutely.
So I think it would be a better option to provide us at least one period with people who are having the expertise in this particular area and dealing with the students and then working on their mental health. It is going to improve the things faster.
So you are right in that experts need to work. The system for it, I'm not sure, the system that you are saying where there is a special period where we deal with it, because what will happen, what really is going to happen is, in such scenarios, the needs and the wants sometimes are very unique. So it may not be, may not work to run it as a classroom only. In a lot of cases, it would perhaps also be one-on-one capabilities that a counselor, a special educator, or an expert can provide. I completely understand, and in fact, let me complete that physics wala example. I told the counselor, the HR team there, I said, you guys are not counselors. Please don't do this. One of these days, one of your employee is going to commit suicide, and you will be the one that will get blamed for it. Or one of the employees in your company will do something stupid, okay, and you will get blamed for it. And I'm not even just saying because you will get blamed and you shouldn't. You may actually be harming them more than helping them. So as teachers, please focus on education. As teachers, please focus on creating these mechanisms to run your class well. As teachers, group together as a team in the way I was talking about. As teachers, learn the coping mechanism that the parents have created. But please, my sincere advice to all of you and sincere request to all of you, please do not become counselors and special educators. Please don't let the experts do that job. It is meant for the experts. I don't do therapies for anybody ever. I do counselings. Some people say I'm extremely, extremely good at it, and some say, why would you do that? But anyway, but please don't. It's not your area. It's not your expertise. You should not, neither with the students, not even with the parents.
I just wanted to say, when we introduce anything new in the system, we always get the person who has the knowledge and expertise in that field, we should always get a person.
Yeah.
The same thing, when something is happening like that, if the inclusive education is being promoted at such certain levels, then I think that person, the involvement of such expert people should be there.
Yeah. So ma'am, let me talk about the steps that I mentioned earlier that actually takes care of this. Number one, you do screening, you do identification, screening and assessment. That takes care of one of the areas that you are talking about. So you have, created capabilities for what is required for individuals. Then we also talked about coping mechanisms. Now coping mechanisms are, while they are extremely important and you will create differentiated coping mechanisms for the students, while you are doing that, you will probably even realize some of you will end up developing your own coping mechanisms to deal with some of this stuff. Okay. Next, we talked about counseling. Okay. I said every teacher, every child or parent should also have. Teachers, it should be a must-have. No brainer, it has to be there. Even for the parents or the students, counseling needs to be an important part of their life for them to develop their coping mechanism. See, counseling is done for two purposes only. Number one, give up your past. Number two, develop coping mechanism. There is no real third benefit that you get out of any counseling, any therapy, whatever. These are the two real things that you need to do. So do that with students as they may need it. Not just students that have extreme stress or that are in terrible situations at that point of time. And some of that, you are right, can be done as a class. So there can be special workshops, special sessions, special activities that gets done for it. In fact, we do such workshops with students. We don't do that.
Like the parents.
See, you are right, but the students can be mandatory, teachers can be mandatory, students can be mandatory, parents can only be voluntary. School will have to spend a lot of money putting together food and drinks to get those parents to come. Okay, well, with that, thank you so much. As I was mentioning earlier, we run a platform called as Solh Wellness. Okay? Any of you can download that platform. It is available both on Android as well as on iOS. It provides you with what we call as self-help tools, community support tools, and then expert intervention as you may need. One of the key capabilities that we also provide is you can simply go to the tool. If you are overwhelmed with emotions right now click on what we call as talk now, and you can talk to a counselor.
There's an app, sir?
Yes, it's on both Android as well as iOS. Ma'am will be able to provide you with more details as well. But you can simply go to either the Apple Store or the Android Store, and you can simply type SOLH, Soul Wellness. Okay? Yes. As I said, we are not soul wellness. The word actually in Hindi is Solh. But we, in the interest of our global audience, Solh is making peace. In Arabic, it's called Salah. Yes, making peace. Anyway, thank you so much for all of you. I hope some of you will start using our platform to take care of yourself and to learn more about mental wellness and get knowledge and expertise on an ongoing basis. And of course, intervention with your students, intervention with your parents is an extremely important part. But out of all the things that I ask you to do, one thing that I ask you to not do is do not become a counselor. Let the expert do the job. If one of you wants to become a counselor, take a counselor training and by all means do that. But please, in your current jobs, be a teacher, not a counselor. Thank you so much.